What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Cover 3 podcast. I'm joined by Aaron of 49ers First Takes and Sterling Bennett of 49ers Access. You can also find Sterling over on 95.7 The Game and in his living room as his office is still being remodeled by Aaron of 49ers First Takes.
Yeah.
Aaron's in there right now.
I wish it'd be done by now if Aaron was doing it.
He's like, I need more drywall. I'll be back. So, guys, I hope you're having a good week. I know that we haven't talked on the show since the Black Sunday that the Niners took on the Seahawks. Look, it was a brutal loss. 41-6 was the score. Nothing went right for San Francisco, even when on their first drive, if you want to call it that, turning the ball over on fourth down on a weird option play, which was like, what are we doing? This is not the FBS. Like, why are we running like an option play with use check involved? Like, I don't understand that. But right off the jump, I mean, Shaheed running that back, house call for a touchdown to start off the game. Not a great way for San Francisco to start in any game, let alone the divisional playoff game. But at that point, it really felt like, okay, we're already behind the eight ball. Turning the ball over on fourth down, giving up another touchdown. It felt like a waterfall had just been unleashed, a flood over the Niners. And look, you know, at one point it was like, what, 17-3, I want to say. The Niners had a chance to maybe score a touchdown. Unfortunately, they couldn't get in the end zone. They had to settle for a field goal. And then they get the ball back in the second half, and they do absolutely nothing with it. And at that point, I was like, all right, this game might be over. I mean, if they were able to score back-to-back touchdowns and make it 17-17, that would have been pretty amazing. But it just kind of felt like it was too little, too late, too much to even overcome right off the gate. Sterling, when you watched that game on Sunday, what was your take on how the Niners performed up in Seattle?
First, I'm shocked it's only been 1 week. It feels like it's been 4 months since that game ended, primarily because that game was over on the very first play of the game.
It felt that way, didn't it? It felt like,
It was, I think we all knew, even if we were more confident than others, maybe giving San Francisco a chance, that if they had a chance, it was going to be a tooth and nail fight to the finish. It wasn't going to be San Francisco blowing them out. It was going to be San Francisco doing all the small things correct, like they did in Philadelphia, to pull that one off. And it just wasn't their day. I think we all can talk about the injury stuff and just the war of attrition and everything, but they just didn't have the guys, and the guys they had couldn't get it done. I don't know what it is against Seattle. It's just this team plays their worst football, and I don't think it's health. Jawan Jennings, Demarcus Robinson, the offensive line was fully healthy, and they couldn't stop anybody. It just sometimes you overmatched and outgunned, and it felt like San Francisco was that for the first play of the game to the very last play of the game. So that said, I can almost accept a game like that more than I could a tough-fought loss. Like, I could put this behind me and say, well, you just weren't good enough that day compared to maybe losing 26-20 on the final drive of the game and a heartbreaker. It's like I can accept and kind of come to terms with just that San Francisco has some work to do, and this is a really good opportunity to do that this offseason. I know, Aaron, I'm sure you felt different towards the game than we all did coming into it, at least, but I think leaving the game, we all kind of said the same thing of like, well, shit.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like, well, there went that. I mean, it wasn't like offensively Sam Darnold tore it up. I mean, he was only 12-17 for 124 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Again, asked to do very little, but didn't have to do too much because Kenneth Walker ran for 116 yards, averaging 6.1 a carry. Charbonnet had 20 yards. He tore his ACL.
Yeah, pre-torn ACL.
Yeah, that's not good for them. That's a huge loss for Seattle, not having Zach Charbonnet, especially in third down situations on the goal line. Yeah. But McCaffrey, 11 carries, 35 yards. We got to see some Jordan James, 6 carries for 28 yards, but that was like, where has this been for, how long now? I don't really understand. Yeah. But again, Aaron, I wanted to ask you, we talked about, man, we really need to get Ricky Pearsall back on the field because that was it. He ended the game with 0 catches. He did have he had 2 targets, one of which we thought he had an amazing catch. Turns out he didn't quite hold on to the ball. This is your first round pick, and he was 0 receptions on 2 targets. Is there just a lack of continuity between Purdy and Pearsall, or is this guy just a bust?
I have strong feelings on him.
Just be honest, dude. Just be honest. Just let it rip.
I don't know if you guys have seen it. I put it on X. It was Larry leaned pretty hard into Pearsall, and pretty much everything he had to say, I agreed. And I get raked over the coals for a lot of my kind of glass half empty takes. I get sneered at. I get people cursing me out or whatever. But man, when you get drafted in the first round, I know he wasn't expected, like Sterling said, to be the number 1 guy. But when you get drafted in the first round, there's a certain level of expectation as far as production and just where you fit in the offense, like what priority you are in the offense. And 2 years in, we don't really know what we got. He's rarely healthy. He's a really good route runner and most of the time has hands that are like glue. But he just never plays. He's never healthy. I know from watching other people that have more inside knowledge to me that the organization is not extremely happy with him. Now that's someone else's opinion, but I could understand why. I don't know, man. He was the least of our problems in that game, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
As much as I was going to say, like, as much grief as I got and as negative as I've been, I still was pulling so hard for the Niners in that game. And I really thought at certain points they had a chance to get back in this game. When we talked about it the other day, I thought in the end we would lose just because of, health and no rest and all this other stuff. But I didn't think we would get boat raced. But sometimes those kind of games and like sometimes seasons that go really bad, sometimes you need that kind of like lasting image to facilitate real movement in the offseason and some, maybe some fundamental organizational like change that needs to happen. Like so in a way, the way that game ended, it kind of worked out. Still sucked. But who knows? Maybe it'll spur some things in this offseason in a positive direction, and maybe I won't complain as much next year.
It's just hard to see. I mean, look, we got a question here from Lori Matthews. Could Ricky's PCL just not be healed yet? Is this the type of injury that lingers? Sterling, what do you think? Do you think that Ricky was still hurt and that really he wasn't as effective because he couldn't move as freely as he wanted to? Or do you think it's just the Seattle defense was just so suffocating that it didn't matter if he was healthy or not? It wasn't going to happen.
I think 2 things can be true at once. That Seattle defense is the best in football for all the reasons that we've already listed. They have found a way to suffocate this Niners offense, and it's unfortunate that 2 of the 3 times they played San Francisco, happening in the span of 2 to 3 weeks, that they played them one time without Trent and Pearsall, and the next time without George Kittle, which I don't think having one of those guys back or 2 of those guys back changes much, but maybe it changes something. Who knows? The interior offensive line was terrible. It was just awful. Burford, Brendel, Pooney, we're getting just tossed across the field 24/7. And I think, with Pearsall, he is still hurt. And I think that has to come into, part of the conversation, but that also is part of the problem. You're always hurt. And I'm someone that has defended Ricky for 2 years. I love what he can bring to a team when healthy, but that's been a big problem with a lot of Niner players in recent seasons. When healthy, being tagged next to your name. I think Shanahan talked about this in his post kind of end of season press conference of like, when Ricky was healthy for the first 3 games of the year, he was awesome. He was leading or towards the top of the receiver yard category. And we all said, oh my God, it's JSN, it's Puka, it's Ricky. Like, this could be special. And San Francisco may have found the next, guy on the offense. And then he gets hurt late against either the Cardinals week 3 or maybe early against Jacksonville week 4. And his PCL just never recovered. He tried to fight his way back, but I think Shanahan said that in the 8 games Pearsall played this year, that he was himself for 4 of them. Which, okay, you would assume the first 3 games of the year, you're fully healthy. And the one game you probably are yourself was the Chicago game. I think Ricky played in that game. If he didn't, probably the Titans game, which you got hurt again in that game. So it's just, it's frustrating for San Francisco, a guy you viewed to be your number 2 wide receiver, not your number 1, being thrust into being the number 1 guy because of the outside situation with Brandon Ayuk and everything. And a lot of injuries there. Like, in a perfect world, Ricky's your 2, maybe your top end 3. And he can do some damage there. But you're going into an offseason, like Aaron said, of like, who is Pearsall? You have an idea of what he could be, but that's great. That doesn't matter. You have to know who you are coming into year 3. And think about this. You can talk about, where he's at in his production and his progression, but like, they have to make a decision on his 5th-year option, not after this season, but after next season. He has 1 year to prove if he's worth that 5th-year option. I think right now, no, which would be a big bummer for a team that needs a player like him in the offense.
I think he has the capabilities to be somebody who's a receiver that's really, really productive in this system. The problem is, obviously, is that he just cannot find a way to stay healthy. Now, look, the Niners were full of players that they were counting on having and didn't have. Obviously, we talk about Nick Bosa, Michael Williams, Fred Warner, and the list goes on. Even Spencer Burford was out for an extended period of time. What's his name? The other lineman Ben Barch. I mean, he was like, "I'm here, I'm hurt. I'm here, I'm hurt." I was like, damn it.
Who would have seen that one coming, though?
Exactly, right? It's been his entire career. And so they had a lot of players that did not live up to expectations. Some of this, and then, of course, we talk about receivers. We talk about players that that weren't available, that didn't live up to expectations. We talk about Brandon Ayuk. Now, we know that Brandon Ayuk, at the presser, John Lynch even said that Ayuk has played his last snaps with the San Francisco 49ers. Sterling, let me ask you, do you think San Francisco tries to trade him before the June 1st deadline, or do you think this is a case where he's just going to get released and then he will go off into whatever the fuck he wants to do?
I wouldn't be shocked if Brandon Ayuk has played his last snap of football, period. It's very rare when a player goes AWOL and they come back to somebody else. Now, the question would also be who's trading for Brandon Ayuk. Obviously, the Commanders and Jaden Daniels, maybe that's a tie there. Who knows? Maybe a team like the Bills are desperate. I don't know. Antonio Brown got traded twice in the same offseason, so maybe that's possible. But the difference with it, take a player like Antonio Brown, for example, somebody that clearly has some problems. That guy would still play.
Yeah.
Ayuk doesn't want to play. He'd still be on social media, ranting, raving, doing his thing, making himself known to the public of like, I'm here in some capacity. Brandon Ayuk just went radio silent on the team, his teammates, the coaching staff, and everybody else in the NFL. So it's not as if he's putting feelers out. Now, maybe he does play. I think somebody could take a risk. Why wouldn't you? When he's healthy, he's an awesome player. But I don't know if a team, one, wants to trade for a player with that many distractions behind him, but also two, is taking on that contract. Now, maybe the voided guarantees play into a factor here. He's cheaper for somebody else than he is San Francisco, but most likely he'll get released. A team takes a flyer on him. It works out, doesn't work out, who knows? But I think the most likely option is he gets cut probably post June 1st. The way John Lynch talked about that, it sounded like they want to split up that dead cap hit over 2 years, knowing they can actually spend this offseason and avoid taking a big dead cap hit again in 2026. So he'll probably get cut with the post June 1st designation, say goodbye then and call it a day.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, Aaron, I mean, even if, would you want Brandon Ayuk to even come back on this team?
Hell no.
No, I don't.
Why would you want a quitter in your ranks, just like Devondre Campbell last year?
I mean, basically, he turned into a quitter. Look, the moment that they voided all of his guarantees, there was no chance he was going to come back. And I think that he knew that. The team probably realized at one point, like, okay, well, he's probably not going to come back. And then they thought maybe he will. He's been hanging around, and now
maybe he'll get over it.
Maybe he'll get over losing a shit ton of money. But again, $76 million guaranteed for only 374 yards. That's crazy.
Can I say something? The human side of me, who's, I love football. I love the Niners. Like, I'm obsessed. I have issues with them. I worry that he has some sort of mental health issue. Based on not contacting anybody, just completely going radio silent. He doesn't seem like he's in his right mind. And before I really with this offseason and all the stuff that we hope we do and all the things that we want to happen, I hope we get a clearer picture down the road of exactly what happened. Like, does it matter for us as Niners fans? No. But I would love to know what exactly is going on in his mind. And maybe he has some sort of psychological problems, or who knows? I mean, he always kind of seemed like a little bit of I don't know, his body language is always never the greatest. He kind of always seemed a little disinterested and disengaged.
Yeah.
So
it's safe to say he's a weird guy. He's a fucking weird dude. Like most of these athletes, he's a weird guy. I keep saying he's like Kevin Durant. The more we got to know Kevin Durant, the more Warrior fans were like, this guy's kind of weird.
The more I regret knowing more about Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I was like, he was cooler before I got to know him. Now he's just an odd guy. Yeah. And, I mean...
I think we all can just say we hope he's okay.
Absolutely.
Yep. The money,
okay, but
the football comes second to being okay.
But I mean, look at this.
But it sucks, man. It's just
it's rough.
I know that maybe you can get into semantics here about one guy being better, and Debo probably comes in the conversation, but I don't think enough can be said about the trajectory of Brandon Ayuk's career was pointing up and up and up. Like, this guy was on track to be maybe the third greatest wide receiver in franchise history. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm kind of short-sighted in that of, who's on the back end of that. Like, obviously Dwight Clark's involved in there somewhere, and John Taylor's involved too, but like, it's Rice, it's T.O., and it's kind of a big wide gap in between there of really great wide receivers in team history. And the way Ayuk was trending, you have him in his prime, a great quarterback that they can throw to him. And it's just like, man, like, this was going to be the next great quarterback receiver tandem in San Francisco. And for whatever reason, we have no idea exactly. He threw it all away. And what makes it worse is that he threw it away for a team that won 12 games this year and desperately needs a guy like him in the offense.
Imagine if he would have came back after the bye. Yeah. It would have been huge. Now, we talk about, a great wide receiver quarterback combination and what could have been. Well, what do you guys think about the rumors that the Niners could be open to bringing back Deebo Samuel? I think, to me, I was like, no, thank you.
Check your source, brother.
Yeah, like
NFL rumors on that.
I know. I was like, look, even if it's true, I'm like, look, bro, I love you, Deebo, but there's a reason why we traded you and you wanted to move on. No. If this holds any water, Aaron, would you be open to bringing back Deebo Samuel?
Hell no, dude. You serious? He's another head case.
Sterling.
His best football's behind him.
It really is.
Nah.
Sterling?
Why would you trade for a 29-year-old receiver who's past his prime, and the way he plays just
he's going to be a free agent, so you don't have to trade for him.
Oh, sorry. Like, why would you bring in a guy, right? I almost think the Niners offense, for as limited as it was this year, and it was limited a lot of the time, if you plug in Deebo Samuel to this team this year, it's worse on offense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, the vertical passing game they had, trusting Purdy in the pocket, is so much worse because Kyle then goes back to reliable in Deebo Samuel, and things get more kind of restricted and condensed where, Purdy, for as, bad as his weapons were, he was throwing downfield to Demarcus Robinson for touchdowns against the Colts and Jawan Jennings. And like, you do that and you plug in Deebo, and it's just like, this offense looks like how it did in 2024, which is not a good place whatsoever.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I know they put this out there. I don't believe it one bit. You can't.
I would say this too. Sorry, Dre. Deebo, and this goes into Laurie Matthews' comment here, he's too emotional. Deebo and A.J. Brown are cut from the exact same cloth.
Yeah.
Two emotional wide receivers have the exact same agent. They're very close friends. Guys you don't want to have on your team when you are trying to maintain and continue the culture already established. A.J. Brown has been wanting out of Philadelphia since week 3 of this year. Don't bring him to San Francisco either. Two emotional receivers that just don't come up big in playoff time for me.
And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show about A.J. Brown. But let's go to some positive news, which is Christian McCaffrey has been named the comeback player of the year. And this guy, he absolutely dominated. I mean, how could he not win this? He was first in touches. He was second in scrimmage yards, third in total touchdowns. I mean, this guy, as good as Purdy was at the end of the season, there's no way we get there without Christian McCaffrey being on the roster. Aaron, do you think it more than worthy of this award, and should it be an MVP finalist?
Yes, he should be an MVP finalist, but we all know it's a quarterback award. It's never going to happen.
Well, it ain't going to be Josh Allen, I'll tell you that.
Right. But it's a quarterback award. It's funny. I'm a gamer. I have an Xbox. My wallpaper on my Xbox when I turned it on is a one with him like in the snow, and it's like really like I got it like 4K. He's my favorite Niners player on the team, like hands down. Just what he represents as a person, how he plays, just how much he cares. Like I'm old. You guys, I talk all the time about being an old head and old school and about the past.
But so is he.
He is a throwback player.
Yeah.
Like a Rice, like a basketball Jordan. Like the game means everything to him.
Yeah.
He's absolutely obsessed. Yes, he deserves. Dude, if he won the MVP this year, I would be elated. I know awards don't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things as far as like Super Bowls and stuff, but hell yeah. I love CMC.
So another question I have for Sterling is that Sterling, we know that the last time he got a load like this, obviously he had the bilateral, what do you call it? The
Achilles tendonitis
or whatever. Do you think that this may be the last year we're going to see McCaffrey take on this kind of load? I don't think so. I think this guy's an elite athlete, and I think he'll do the same thing next year as well. But what do you think? Do you think this is the last year that we're going to see McCaffrey at this high a level during the season?
I don't think if Kyle Shanahan's still calling plays, which he is, you're ever going to pull that guy off the football field. And I don't think Shanahan envisions a world without him on the football field. McCaffrey did discuss a little bit in his post-season press conference about like he wants to bring in an RB2 that can actually carry part of the load. And I think that may be to either put him as a receiver, who knows, to help things there. But, it just feels like that Shanahan is like, I'm going to run this guy into the ground as long as I can. And as long as Christian lets me do that to him.
Yeah.
You guys mentioned him being an old head and kind of being a throwback player. Yeah. Those guys don't come off the football field very often. Now there certainly are concerns when you have a player that has 450 plus touches in a season, what the next season is like. I think it's pretty valuable if San Francisco can get him off the field more often. People talk about, the Mac Jones era of quarterbacking this year. That was because Christian McCaffrey was so damn good underneath.
How many times did he go to McCaffrey? I mean,
right. It was and that works, but he's going to be 29 soon. I think this year, 28 soon. A lot of tread on those tires back to Stanford, Carolina, now in San Francisco. Now, do I trust Christian McCaffrey's training and all that stuff? Of course I do. People didn't think he would do this year, and he did. So why would I doubt it? But that said, like, you have to be a little leery of like, okay, we're putting a guy that's under 235 pounds. He ain't Derrick Henry. He's going to slow down. He's a guy that needs speed to separate at times, and we saw that there was a little bit less speed on Christian McCaffrey this year, which isn't bad whatsoever. But you just have to be aware of that, and I don't think Kyle truly cares, which sucks. And again, CMC is not going to pull himself off the football field. So if he's healthy, expect 450 again in 2026 for better or for worse.
And look, the Niners got eliminated. They lost to Seahawks. Tough news. Tough to watch. McCaffrey couldn't do anything because the defense or the offense couldn't do anything. And we knew going into this that this move was probably going to happen. And that move is Robert Saleh is now the head coach of the
Wow.
Tennessee Titans. That's what it felt like. Like, oh God. Look, there's reasons why I think Saleh went here. Obviously, they're going to get a high draft pick. They have Cam Ward. They have some assets on the defensive line. But to me, it's like, why on earth would you go to Tennessee, which is just a bad franchise altogether? But hey, I mean, it sounds like he let them know early on that like he wanted to be a head coach again. He didn't want to be a defensive coordinator. I think he's best as a defensive coordinator, but I mean, everyone has their own passion. Yeah, Tennessee, where careers go to die. Yeah, it's my Uncle Ponch right there. And this was a tough pill to swallow because I really wanted him to be here at least one more season to help develop this defense. But Aaron, Bob Saleh is gone after 1 year and goes to Tennessee. What do they do? What are their options? I mean, a lot of people are saying Gus Bradley is probably going to be the guy they're going to go to. Do you agree that they should go with Gus Bradley, or should they send out a wider net and bring in more guys to interview?
I just hate like this weird thing with Kyle and John about being comfortable and like always doing the comfortable thing over the thing that could actually help improve the defense. There's some good coordinators out there like Schwartz, like Raheem Morris. Did I say Schwartz? I don't know if he looks like he might end up being the Browns coach because nobody wants to play there. But just like, I mean, like, come on, dude. Like Gus Bradley, a retread. If you look at some of his statistics, somebody posted them up the other day. He hasn't had a top 10 defense in like, I don't know, like last 6 to 10 years when he was a defensive coordinator. So like, I don't know, man. Like, I would love to see them go outside the organization, bring in a fresh mind. The Raheem Morris one makes the most sense because he's connected to Kyle. And so I think the defensive mindset might be similar. But it's obvious they're gonna go with Gus Bradley. And they're not even trying to hide it yesterday. Or was it yesterday was the press conference?
Well, I mean, they are, yeah.
Wednesday.
It was. And they are going to interview some players. I mean, some coaches. I think Raheem Morris might be one of them. I think if anyone from the outside is a strong candidate, it's going to be Raheem Morris because Kyle knows him. And so he'd feel like, hey, let's bring him in. But I think the reason why they brought Gus Bradley to begin with was to take over for Saleh if Saleh were to leave in this offseason, which he didn't waste any time. He was gone immediately. So he's gone. And so Sterling, I mean, Gus Bradley, I mean, the former DC of the Legion of Boom, is this the guy that you think can lead this Niners defense moving forward?
Whew. Yeah, yeah.
He hasn't had much success outside of Seattle. He went to Jacksonville. He's been to many different stops. Dallas. And
Indianapolis.
It just seems like Indianapolis, it just doesn't seem to come together like it did in Seattle.
Yeah, I think, something Gus Bradley is really good at is calling cover 3. The problem is he always calls cover 3. Now, you have seen San Francisco transition from, that Seattle defense, cover 3 wide 9, to more of a quarters coverage style. And you always want to leave the door open to learn. And I think Gus Bradley being brought in this past year, learning under Saleh, learning the defense again, maybe there's a little bit of knowledge he's gained to like how the Niners want to run things compared to how he's done things since his time in Seattle and Jacksonville, where he's been the DC or been one of the higher end assistants. And this year he kind of was behind the scenes and did a really great job in the red zone. San Francisco ranked around 14th in the red zone this year, was a big reason why they won a lot of games. Now, would he be my first choice? No. I think you'd want to get more aggressive and find, everybody wants to find the next, Steve Spagnuolo to the Andy Reid, right? That is the dream goal of having 2 head coaches be under the same team, but manning both sides of the football. Jimmy Schwartz obviously feels like the biggest candidate that fits that mold. I think San Francisco would have to change things, which they already kind of have to do. So maybe it isn't a bad thing whatsoever to fix their secondary and get an actual coverage safety that can actually play some single high safety structure. Raheem wouldn't be bad. I just think that you're going from Saleh, who I think proved to be one of the better defensive minds in football. It's probably Schwartz and Brian Flores and D'Amico Ryans, excuse me, Dre, at the top.
Just saying.
But Morris has been everywhere, right? Tampa 2 and Tampa Bay under Monty Kiffin, I believe. He was with the Rams for a long time, was with the Niners, or not Niners, with Washington for a bit. So he's kind of seen it all and done it all. And I think he is used to now coaching young defenses. Did it the past couple of years with the Falcons. So Raheem probably feels like their top pick outside of the room, and Gus feels like the safety net inside the room. I don't feel like they're going to be in the business of giving KJ Wright a big promotion this year. It sounds like maybe Tennessee wants to pluck Daniel Bullocks away, their cornerback coach, which I don't know, it may be good, maybe bad. But yeah, I mean, the problem with San Francisco now is you're going from a top 10, top 5 defensive mind in football that coached a very young defense that had to make up a lot of the ground to help mold them or help kind of bridge the gap from being terrible to being average enough to win some tough games, to now finding the next guy that can do that for you. And there isn't many guys out there, I think, can do that aren't named Jim Schwartz. So it does seem like they're going to take a step back from a coaching department, but they're in a great spot to add some better personnel, which could also kind of bridge that gap again. So it's a really big offseason for a lot of reasons, and finding the right guy is imperative. Shanahan's been trying to find some of that continuity for a long time. And I don't know if he's going to find it again this offseason either. So it stinks, it sucks, but you wish Bob good luck in Tennessee, because that's a crapshoot, but it does seem like he'll be given a more longer leash than he was with the Jets, who are just the worst in Tennessee, in my opinion. But that's all that is.
Well, Dante Whitner had a lot to say about the decision to go to Tennessee. Let's hear what Dante Whitner had to say about Robert Saleh going to be the head coach of the Tennessee Titans.
I do not like the choice. I do not like Robert Saleh going to the Tennessee Titans, and I'm going to tell you why.
Why?
He's not an offensive coach.
He's not.
You don't have a proven quarterback. If your quarterback isn't doing exactly what he's taught to do from a quarterback perspective, how do you know how to coach him up and get him prepared?
Yep.
You're relying on a quarterback coach or offensive coordinator when you're the head guy, and you're going to take the fall when you don't win. So when I'm looking at it, I see just another New York Jets situation.
Interesting.
Zach Wilson, good defense, even had Aaron Rodgers, and you couldn't figure it out. I would have liked to see Robert Saleh go to the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They got the personnel on defense.
But they run a 3-4. They're a 3-4, though.
Don't matter. When you the head man, you change everything. They used to be a 3-4. They're going to be whatever he tell them to be now. So look, you got the defensive line. You got Kyle Hamilton. You got defensive backs. You got Lamar Jackson. You got a running game. That's where I would have liked to see.
Yeah, I think if we're ranking jobs, yes, Baltimore is miles ahead of Tennessee. But to go to Pat's point, they play a defense that Robert Saleh is not necessarily known for.
They used to. But everybody's wiped out of there, right?
But what I'm saying is, and this is a big what if, I don't know, but what if Baltimore says, we're not going to change schematically, defensively, what we want to do. So if you're not willing to go along with that, or if you can't ride with that, then this is a marriage that
you the head coach now. You don't give a damn. Hire a DC, get the bag. Let them do their thing.
But Dante,
in the rooms, I think that would be good enough.
But you don't think this right here? I mean, I do see a point when saying like this could be another Jets situation. But do you not think, like, I'm a firm believer that the team takes on the identity of your head coach.
The Jets didn't.
Oh.
Wow, God, he's being so unfair right now.
Dante,
the Jets didn't. Oh.
There's a reason why he's not part of that post-game coverage anymore.
Yeah,
because he lays into the 49ers.
That's Rod Brooks.
Rod Brooks. I like that combination of people on a podcast.
Yeah,
Willis, Dante Whitner, and Rod Brooks.
So
I love Dante a lot, but like there was so much context that like he just left out of all of that.
Oh yeah, he was just going
Like Jesse
kinda right
Ventura
after it.
coached in Baltimore for a long time, knew Jim Harbaugh, learned under Mike McDonald, and they wanted to bring the same defensive style back with the coach that was already there. Like, why would they do that and change it up? Like, you're already changing your head coaching job, and maybe you're even OC. Why would you want to lose defensive continuity on a team that's already veteran led? Like, you're not drafting a bunch of, you don't have 11 draft picks to spend on a defense this year. Meanwhile, Tennessee has a second-year quarterback, an ownership group that is so desperate, they'll give him a 3 to 4 year deal and actually be honest and truthful about it. And a quarterback, if he fails, you say, wasn't my guy. Let me find my guy now in year 3 or 4. Like, you go back to what Tennessee wants, man. Like, they are the moldable clay of the options that have a high-end draft pick.
High draft pick.
Have like $120 million to spend if he wants to bring in his guys. Like, yeah, it isn't perfect. Titans have been a crap show for the last, 15 years or so. But like, the Ravens were never going to hire Robert Saleh. He
Probably
wasn't going
not.
to go to Cleveland. Like, now I wouldn't have gone to Tennessee if I was Robert Saleh, but like, it's a little more nuanced than that. Now, Buffalo, we talked about that for a long time. We knew they were going to fire McDermott after they lost that game.
Did
We
you
had
see the signatures?
Dude,
the fans
no.
are trying to get him to get rehired. It was like, okay, that's cute, but that's not going to happen.
I did see their ownership trash Keon Coleman for like
what was the deal with that? Like, why were they trashing him for? I don't understand. Like, I saw the comments. I was like, I don't. What's the context of this?
They didn't want him. And
yeah,
McDermott and his off. I think they're his off. I don't know if it's his coaches or the people he was making decisions with. They wanted him. They pushed for him, and they pretty much made it known, which I think is a really low thing to do. And the press conference, like, oh, if you're going to blame anybody for Keon Coleman, blame the ex-coach. We had nothing to do with it. That's so
it was
lame.
really weird. It was like,
the
what
GM
is
was
happening?
the quote was, "Oh, the GM was being a team player," and it's like,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure there are people that John Lynch wanted the draft that Kyle picked instead. Okay, that happens all the time, right? But like, you signed off on that deal together. That's the tandem you are. And also, Ken Coleman's like, hey, brother, I'm still rostered here.
Yeah,
you don't
he's
want
like,
me.
I haven't
What do
gone
I
anywhere.
do?
I'm still here, guys. I'm in the, what's going on?
Like,
And then,
man.
I mean, look at this, 40,000 signatures to
Wow.
reinstate Sean McDermott in Buffalo. That's great. That's all fine and dandy, but that's not going to do you any good.
That is
I mean,
more than any Rams fans ever come to that SoFi Stadium for a game before.
It's almost
That's
like
insane.
it's almost like the people that want to restore the Snyderverse.
I was going to say, it's just like that. Like, oh, that's cool, but it doesn't make the money.
It's all about conformity gate now. Come on, guys. You got to catch up on the Stranger
Okay,
Things.
so we know that Saleh is gone, and one of the worries I had was that he was going to probably take Brant Boyer with him, but it turns out he's not.
Thank goodness.
Matt Mayoko reported that Paul Karofsky, whatever the fuck his name is, as expected, Robert Saleh will retain John Bones Fossil as his special teams coordinator. So Brant Boyer is here to stay, you guys. This is a great thing for San Francisco because our special teams sucked the year before, and then as good as it was this year, it shit the bed when it started the game against Seattle.
When it mattered most.
When it mattered most, it was like, oh, special teams again.
They were struggling a little bit towards the end of the year with some of their kick coverage.
Well, and I think it's because you had so many guys coming in and out, in and out. There's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? But I'm glad to see Brant Boyer is staying with San Francisco because
Me too.
They need some continuity as special teams. And also, guys, Kyle Shanahan.
Do you want to know a secret?
What's the secret
about that? Even if Tennessee had fired John Fossil,
John Bones.
the Niners could have been like, sorry, you can't move laterally. We're just going to block it anyways. So
Aren't they doing the same thing with Kubiak?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like, you can't move laterally unless the team lets you, or unless you somehow circumnavigate that system, which.
Well, they tried to bring in the DB's
Falcons.
coach for the Falcons, and they got denied. And that right there
Which may
tells
mean
me
they're going for Raheem Morris
That's what I was thinking. I was like, wait a minute. So maybe it is Raheem that they're interested in. Like, hey, we could bring him over and da-da-da-da. But connecting dots here, really. But like we're showing, Kyle Shanahan is a finalist for Coach of the Year. I think it's rightfully deserved. The guy overcame so much adversity and kept his team alive throughout the postseason. And I think that he has earned the right to be at least a finalist as Coach of the Year. They're probably going to give
Joseph
it to
Ehrenberged it.
Joseph Ehrenberged it. But I think that it's probably going to go to Vrabel because if he leads his team to the Super Bowl, then he's gonna get that. I mean, I don't know how they can't get there. They're playing against the Broncos and Jared Stidham. Anyway, I think the Broncos are totally effed now they lost their quarterback. But
They
anyway,
cooked our defense 2 years ago, man. Give them some hope.
yeah, but they still lost that game. The Niners won that game. Okay, so Kyle Shanahan, finalist for Coach of the Year, rightfully deserved. The guy coached his ass off this year. But let's look at this though. I wanted to break this down because the Niners are, in fact, an aging team. And so some questions have been put out there of, has this team's window closed? Or is it closing as we speak? Well, when I bring up this post from Clutch Sports, or Clutch Points, my bad.
My employer.
They bring up some really cool or really good aspects, okay? I mean, look, since 2017, the Niners have been a gritty, well-coached team. They went to 4 conference championships and 2 Super Bowls. Okay. CMC will turn 30 over the summer. Traditionally, the age running backs start to slow down. Fred Warner will be 30 next season. Nick Bosa turns 29, coming off his second ACL injury.
His third.
Third, really. Trent Williams turns 38. George Kittle turns 33. Not to mention Ayuk will never play again as a Niner. Now, look. Some would say, hey, look, they have their core guys signed, and they're trying to build around these guys. But has the window closed for San Francisco? Is the window just barely open enough to where they can make at least one more run at a championship? Aaron?
It's close to being closed. But, however, I'll be positive.
Breaking news.
If this draft hits and they pick the right guys in free agency, and they could stack on what they did, and they could stack on what they did this season. I know it didn't come out in statistics, and at times we really couldn't see it, but like CJ West got meaningful reps this year. Alfred Collins got meaningful reps this year. Upton Stout got meaningful reps. Like those 3 guys, if they can get other players around them, and then you bring back Kell back from injury, and you bring Bosa back from injury, and Fred comes back. Yeah, I mean, the window's definitely not wide open. Right now they're 3rd in their division talent wise. The Niners need missing in the draft over the last couple of years is really hurt them, because you have to build new stars and you have to draft new stars regardless of where you're drafting because you can't depend on the same guys forever. The good teams find a way to keep the thing flowing in one direction and constantly having that wheel turn, bringing in new young talent. The Niners haven't been able to do that. That's why they've had to make really bad decisions in free agency that haven't worked out, like Javon Hargrave. So it's not open all that much, but this offseason could help open it up just a little bit more. And who knows? I mean, they did what they did this year and won 12 games with an absolutely depleted roster. I mean, that says a lot. So maybe with all those guys coming back next year, plus what we draft and get free agency, maybe that window opens right back up. But we'll see.
I mean, the schedule for next season has the Niners. They have a middle of the pack ranked schedule, meaning like it's not super easy, it's not super hard, it's right in the middle of the pack, right? So that's a good opportunity for San Francisco. But with all the injuries, George Kittle, there's a chance that he could come back next season. There's a chance that he might even play next season, depending on how his rehab goes. You know, I heard, I think Larry was saying, I'd sign Kyle Pitts as a receiver. What if he doesn't want to play receiver? What if Kyle Pitts is like, no, I'm a tight end? I'm not
Yeah,
doing that.
Larry also thinks Isaac Grando's a fullback, and he asked Kyle about that, and Kyle was like, "What are you talking about?"
He's not
So
a
I don't
fullback.
know. And I love Larry. Just like, come on, man.
So I think, again, this comes back to the whiffs at the draft. Getting guys that just have not contributed the way you've wanted to. And I think that making that move, making that trade for Trey Lance completely set them back 4 years. And was probably the worst decision they could have ever have made. Now, if they didn't make that move, do they still end up drafting Brock Purdy? Who knows? Maybe they do. And then, we could have Micah Parsons instead. But at the end of the day, the Niners have a lot of aging stars on their team. Sterling, is this a team that is still looking to retool, could still be competitive going into next season or the next? Or is it time to move on from these stars? Is it time to open up the books and say, guys, we got to trade these guys and move on from the Trent Williams and the Bosas and the McCaffreys? Or is this still a team that can compete for a Super Bowl?
Ooh.
And don't
I don't know.
And don't take too long either.
I'm gonna ramble for the next 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Take us to the top of the hour. I think San Francisco, like every team or most teams, are about 2 off seasons away, 2 good drafts and a solid free agency class from being back in the conversation of a contender, right?
But
like Seattle
but-
had 2 off seasons and bang, here they are.
Seattle did it. But
Yeah.
here's the thing is that everyone kept saying, look at the Rams, look at the Rams, look at the
Sure.
Rams, look what the Rams did, right?
And San Francisco did more than what the
was
Rams
okay,
did.
we're trying to do that too. But guess what? Seattle had already done it. Now you're behind the 8 ball. Now you got
Sure,
not
but-
only Seattle, but you got the Rams ahead of you.
Sure, but Matthew Stafford's 38 years old, may not play 2 more years, and all of a sudden they might retire. Like, there's no promise the Rams are good post Stafford. We beat them. We crushed them almost every single game once they did, like when it was Jared Goff. Like, finding a quarterback that's that elite in an MVP winner probably this year is really hard to do. No one else has that besides the Rams and the Patriots and almost every other AFC team, which San Francisco doesn't have to play throughout the season. Now, I think San Francisco has to go find some blue chip prospects, right? And that's a problem when you are picking towards the end of the first round every single year. It's really hard to find those guys, and it may take being aggressive to get them. Now, I think San Francisco will be aggressive in free agency. I think San Francisco had a pretty good draft class last year. Obviously, injuries play a factor, which you just get tired of saying because it sucks. But like, you got to think, 11 draft picks were on this team last year. A lot of them played in the playoffs. A lot of them were a reason defensively they were in the playoffs this year. A lot of them made plays before everyone else got hurt to help get them some big wins. And I think that San Francisco, they have some holes offensively, but you're not trading Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey and Nick Bosa and George Kittle away or Fred Warner away. Fred Warner is still the best linebacker in football till proven otherwise.
Yep.
George Kittle is still a top 10 tight end, or if not the best tight end until proven otherwise. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey's older, sure. Draft the running back and bing, bang, boom. You have it. You have your tandem there. That doesn't mean that the Niners don't need to change philosophies. I think Shanahan needs to get away from I'm going to redshirt my rookies for a year. That's a bunch of BS. No one else does that besides Kyle Shanahan.
Yep.
And when you are that depleted for speed and strength and fresh legs, and the only unit on your team getting that relief is the defense, is insane. And so if you don't trust your offensive weapons, why draft them? Go sign them. I'm right now, at least in where San Francisco is, a big proponent of draft defense, continue to replenish, get younger, get faster, get stronger, be like Seattle. Seattle's offense is not that good. It's a solid offensive line and a phenomenal defense. It's an elite receiver and an okay quarterback. Like, we still don't know if we can trust Sam Darnold, but he isn't asked to do much against one of the worst defenses in football. So replenish your defense, double down again on it this year in the draft, and spend in free agency on the offense. Go find your left guard, go find your top receiver, go find your now kind of quasi backup starting tight end, and then voila, we're sitting here being like, damn, San Francisco's fast, young, and also explosive offensively again. That to me is the blueprint.
we're not going to get production. I mean, we don't know what production we're going to get out of Jacob Cowan. We don't know what we're going to get out of Jordan Watkins. And for that matter, we almost don't even know what we're going to get out of Ricky Pearsall. So again, offensively, they have a lot of holes at receiver, and that's where they need to shore things up.
And there's plenty of speed in free agency this year.
But
plenty of it.
Tim Kawakami recently put an article out saying that the Niners need to go after either Justin Jefferson or Max Crosby. And if they don't end up with one of those players, this offseason is a failure. My argument with that is this. If you get either one of those two guys, are they superstars? Yes. Will they make an impact? Yes. Will you give up are you mortgaging your future? Yes. Because if you get Max Crosby, you're giving up your first round pick this year. You're giving up your first round pick next year. You're giving up numerous first round picks and second round picks. So now, yeah, you've got Max Crosby, but you don't got much else to go with it. And this team needs so many players that, to me, making a deal for a Justin Jefferson or Max Crosby is probably the dumbest thing you could possibly do right now. That would set you back years just to get one of those two guys. Jefferson would be great as a receiver for us? Absolutely. But then we have so many other holes. How do you make up for that? How do you make up for... If you go get Justin Jefferson and give up a bunch of draft picks, you're probably going to lose Spencer Burford. And then how do you replace that with Connor Colby? You know what I mean? There's a lot. I mean, when we saw how much better our line was with Spencer Burford. And as 49ers 2025 says, our O-line was trash. I think our O-line got better as the year went on with more, when Burford came back and they had a guy they could rely on, not a rookie. But again, our offensive line has holes. Our center, on 4th and fucking 1, they couldn't run the ball up the middle. They tried to do an option play, which was like, it just looked
to the
so
boundary,
terrible.
mind you. To
It
the
was
boundary.
so bad. Everyone, I think all of us, when we watched that play individually, we were like, what was
I was
that?
screaming to the TV, you can't run wide on these guys. You can't go lateral. What are you doing? Like, are you serious? That's the play that you picked?
And then, not to mention, remember the play on Week 18 when Zach Charbonnet ran to the left side? They overloaded the right side. He ran to the left side. They ran that play again, and they got a huge gain off of that. The Eagles ran that play, got a huge gain off of that. That was a Saquon Barkley when he took off. It's like Seattle knew, hey, look, if you go up the middle, you're going to deal with C.J. West and Alfred Collins. Let's just run to the edges where Bryce Huff can't set the edge against the run. And Cleveland Farrell is a street free agent that probably won't be able to hold up. Sam Okawanu is not going to be able to get it done. Now, look.
I like Sam, actually.
I like Sam too, but that's not going to get it done against a team like the Seahawks.
Right.
Sure.
You know, they got Gray Zabel. They have Lucas. They have a good offensive line. And so now the question is, look, I agree with you that the Niners should invest in their defense, continue to invest in their defense. Defense. But it feels like going into next season, the Niners are going to come back with the same old line. It's going to be Brendel, Pooney, who I like, McKivitz, who's a serviceable right tackle.
He's a top 10 right tackle in football.
Yeah,
Trent Williams.
I've grown on McKivitz.
And then who do you stick at that left guard position? I'm sorry, left tackle. No, left guard. Do you try to re-sign Burford? Probably not. You can't go with Connor Colby. He's probably not even ready yet.
I would get somebody. One
Ben
of my
Bartch?
free agent pickups would be a left guard.
They're going to re-sign Ben Bartch, dude.
They are.
Because
You know they are.
Burford's probably going to get not a nice chunk of change, but it's more of a mentality with the offensive line is they believe unless there is a true game-changing talent, they can make do with the scrap heap, which at times they can. Other times they can't. Unfortunately,
There it is right there. Bartch and a free agent. Probably somebody we've never heard of.
Which, I would look out for someone like John Simpson, who's with the Jets, really struggled this year, but was actually pretty good with the wide zone last couple of years with Saleh. That could make some sense for left guard. But other than that, there really isn't a game-changing interior offensive lineman unless you're paying for a center, which we know this regime loves Jake Brendel.
Oh,
They love
yeah.
him.
And
They absolutely love him. But on fourth down,
I
they're
don't-
like, we can't run the ball up the middle with Jake being there. Let's go off to the side and run an option play. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so blatantly apparent that like he cannot push the line to
but
get
that's
that
also
1 yard.
why it's also why you can't make a trade for Max Crosby or a trade
No!
for
No,
Justin
you
Jefferson
cannot.
because
You
so
cannot.
like if you think about it, you lose Ayuk, okay, so you're going to pay for Jefferson, who's making more than Brandon Ayuk over the time of his contract. Okay, fine, Jefferson's a better receiver, top 2 in football. It's him and Chase for sure, right? But okay, then you're going to lose draft picks by doing so, which now you can't find an offensive lineman. Now you can't, replenish your defense or fix your offensive line in the meantime. And you're going to have the exact same problem, a quarterback that doesn't have protection, and you have one guy that can get open. Okay, well, I'm sorry. You have one guy that can get open and no protection. Your quarterback's running for his life and can't throw to that guy. So it's like you have to almost ask San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan and company to do something they don't want to do. Thus, they're not going to do it. They're not
It's
going to draft
never
an
been
offensive
his-
lineman.
Yeah, it's never
I
been
don't-
his thing.
I don't understand the philosophy of like, let's just get a bunch of skill position players, even though our line is trash. My brother, we talked about in Miami, how Miami had issues with pass protection and stuff. He's like, what's the purpose of having all these stars on offense if you have an offensive line who can't protect to get you time to get it to those stars? And that's what their biggest problem is.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, guys. Seattle's front is really
Phenomenal.
really good. So there has to be a little bit of like, okay, how much was Seattle's front and how much of it was our line? I think interior offensive line, left guard and center need replacement. Pooney, he's got like another year. He's been up and down. He started really fast his rookie year, and then he kind of had a struggle. He struggled at the end. And this year he's been kind of the same. He did have a knee injury in preseason, correct?
Yeah, it was
And
the first preseason game. He got hurt at the end of the
Yeah,
game.
but you guys are right. They don't look at it as a priority, which is ridiculous considering like you want to get the ball and facilitate it to all these stars. We have lost Sterling.
I know Sterling had to step out for a second. It looks like, but I mean, look, when you look at the draft last season, right? Last year's draft, who did Seattle take in the first round? They took Gray Zabel. They didn't have to take him. They could have taken Emeka Ibuka. They could have taken Derek Harmon. They could have taken not Jackson Dart, but Jackson Dart. They could have taken James Pierce Jr. But no, they went with Gray Zabel because they knew we need a solid offensive lineman. And
And you have to have an interior one because Darnold's biggest weakness is interior pass rush.
And so, but that's what I'm saying is that like they knew what the priority was, and they chose right. And John Schneider has passed John Lynch in terms of like getting his team ready to get to the next level.
Not a hard thing to do, mind you, but
and so the next question I want to ask you guys is: should the Niners continue with John Lynch as the general manager, or should he just be promoted to president of player personnel and bring in somebody else as the general manager? Has this ship sailed on the decisions that he's making personnel-wise in the draft and in free agency? Aaron?
I mean, when they brought him in, he was inexperienced, right? And now he's been here almost a decade.
Yeah.
I think that is not ridiculous thinking on your part to essentially, which they kind of did already, promote him to president. I would love a different set of eyes to come in here and help them with the draft because they've missed pretty regularly early in the draft over the last 3 to 4 seasons, and it's catching up with them. Your stars can only go for so long until you got to have something coming down the line on the conveyor belt of talent that is going to eventually be like, okay, this guy's diminishing, but we have a new star now. That's why a pick like Pearsall, who hasn't done anything in 2 years, is such a miss because you were expecting him to kind of, you knew Debo was leaving, right? So like he was supposed to kind of elevate into that position and you were not going to miss a beat, but he never did that. So now they're still in the same place, if not worse, because now we don't have Ayuk either. So it's like these misses continuously missing. they catch up after a while. I would love to see somebody else take his place and him still be within. He'd still be in the draft room. They'd still have their videographer watching them and calling everybody and stuff with Jed looking super uncomfortable. But like, yeah, I think it would be great for them. Are they going to do it, guys? No, not going to.
I'm going to ask Sterling's what he thinks as well, but I wanted to share this with Aaron because this is just sums up the season for Aaron right here. There we go. George Kittle and Jake Tonjes.
I saw that,
after
and I'm
like, or back at the facility, like, hey guys,
that's so
next season.
That is so sad. Oh my God. Do you know that the Niners made it onto the Joe Rogan show?
Yes.
They were talking about our injuries and how much of a disparaging gap there is between injuries on our team and everybody else. And then of course they brought up, EMF. the EMF stuff. Dude, watching that press conference and John being like, well, like essentially we're not going to move off of our strength and conditioning staff. Dude, the whole world knows that we're like plagued with injuries every single year.
Yeah, they need to get fired.
The delusion. I had to post it to SF Gold Rush Mike. Mike's just like unbelievable. They're not even going to consider it. It's just,
I know. All right, Sterling, John Lynch. What do you do with him?
Let me ask you guys this first. Which it's not really in their control, but if Brandon Ayuk didn't go AWOL, didn't go nuts, would you have the same mindset of like, well, they're in a bad place offensively? Or like, they have so much to do? I feel like the Ayuk thing, amongst all the other misses they've had, which have been plenty, has kind of really put a damper on what this team has done or what the GM and front office has done the past couple off seasons. Like, imagine going into this year, 11 draft picks, Ayuk doesn't go AWOL, Purdy looks like a franchise quarterback. Yeah, Kittle gets hurt and all that stuff happens, but like, I think we're all sitting back like, they really aren't that far off. They have the number one wide receiver, number two guy. Like,
I don't blame the Brandon Ayuk thing on John Lynch whatsoever. No. That's just Brandon Ayuk. I think that where Lynch has made mistakes is in the draft. I mean, we've seen draft picks that do not work out. Where you're like, why did we take this guy? Even Marquise Siegel, he had a great game against the Eagles, but it was like, why did we draft that guy?
So
when we did.
One thing I've noticed about San Francisco is the fact that they're a really collaborative front office, which inherently isn't a bad thing because, like Aaron wants, new eyes, new ears, getting all opinions from your scouts and every level of your department and trying to find the right guy, the right pick, and really hammer home, like, who should we take at this point in time? And I also, like, within that, I wonder if it's almost too collaborative of, instead of having, one or two voices spearheading things, yes, taking into account the opinions, but like, they're really like those two guys that are like, no, this is who I want. No, this is who I like. Because I think this front office isn't really live by the sword, die by the sword like we think it is. I don't think it's John making all the picks or Kyle making all the picks. Yeah, they have their guys they like, and I'm sure they both have misses. But I think we're putting a collective, let's say 7-pick draft on the neck of John and Kyle. And in reality, it's no, this random scout in the middle of Montana that San Francisco hires gets a pick. Like, you take Nick Sakel, which it's a lower end pick, but like, you scouted that guy for 6 years and he sucks. Why'd you take him? And again, that's one example of the overarching problem, but it does feel like they're almost too collaborative, where maybe you want to kind of rein things back in. And I think, when I envision what the Niners offseason could look like should look like, is that it took 2024 for this team to realize we have to fire the DC, bring in a guy we already had here in Saleh, and we have to restock and replenish a defensive line. And they should probably do it again this year. But I'm almost hoping that that is the case with the offensive line this season of like, okay, like, we have to rip the Band-Aid off and make a change because it's really terrible. And that was at the cost of losing Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, who the latter that had a really good year at Cleveland before his injury, letting Greenlaw and Ufunga go into saying dead cap hit, bring it on, right? You almost need to do the exact same thing on the offensive line. Let Brendel go sign a big name free agent guy. Yeah. Linderbaum is the big one out there, right, for the Ravens. And it's like, you shouldn't fear losing a 34-year-old Jake Brendel. What is the worst thing that can happen? You get the exact same production from a 25-year-old guy that's a rookie. Okay, fine. Or a guy plays worse there. Okay, you have to know what's next. Losing Burford to me isn't that big of a loss. Yeah, you want to bring some continuity back, but whatever. It's like I don't put the misses on John Lynch as much as others do, because San Francisco is so collaborative in that room where it's like, it's not one guy making the choice. It's the 15 guys all have a voice there, which maybe is the problem.
No, but the thing is that at the end of the day, the responsibility falls on his shoulders. And so he has to answer for those missed draft picks where you're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Aaron,
I feel like they're too comfortable. There's a lot of glad handing going on with them because Jed's in there. Kyle and John are so like they're so tight because of what happened with the Harbaugh situation. Like freaking like Jed has been like so afraid. Like there's nothing that's scaring John or Kyle if they have a bad season. Or
that seemingly changed though last offseason with the penny pinching and the cutting of the defensive players basically.
But that came back to bite him in the ass too, because they could have used.
Did it though?
I mean, look,
they
could have used either Malik Collins or Leonard Floyd. They could have used either one of them.
It's 33-year-old guys.
I don't think either of those guys would have had little to any impact this year.
They would do the exact same thing, went the exact same place, and as far as they went, with all of the guys they cut on the roster this year, in my opinion.
I feel like when there's too much comfort in how things are done, just the way watch the press conferences after the draft every year. John and Kyle look like they just like stole the draft. I think they're so confident in themselves, and it's like, I don't know, man. Like I feel like if there's creative tension in the room where like maybe somebody thinks like, okay, I'm not gonna be fired, but I could lose my GM spot and they're gonna move me to president, like, or Kyle, they take away some responsibility as far as personnel decisions, like they did in the late 80s with Walsh. They took everything away from him and just had him coach because he was burnt out. And then he ended up retiring anyways. So like, I feel like with these guys, every year everything spills into the next year and there's like no change to me. So I don't know.
And then there's talk, they asked him about Mac Jones. He said, well, we're not in the business of trading good players. It's not true. But to me, look, if you have an asset, Mac Jones, and it can yield you a good return, trade him. He's your backup quarterback. Was he valuable this season? Yes. But is he replaceable? I say yes.
Got to be more than a second or third round draft pick, though, because they can let him walk next year and get a third round compensation pick, maybe back. So like, it has to be worth, the actual trade. But yeah, if someone gives you a high end third or a low end second, you take it in a heartbeat. Who would?
Okay. Now, there is the rumor that, as far as I know, was put out there by Grant Cohn, which is the Niners are heavily interested in trying to acquire Jordan Addison from the Minnesota Vikings, which I think is attainable. That's something, the player they could acquire. Is that a guy that would benefit coming to San Francisco?
Aaron?
He's a head case. Why would you want to replace one head case?
I mean, he's only been arrested, 3 times? So there's that.
That's my retort of like, you want a guy on the last year of his contract, arrested 3 times, including a DUI, who, if he balls out for you and keeps himself clean, he wants a big contract the following year.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a fifth year option where it's like, yeah, we get him for 1 year, but it's the highest price receiver in the NFL. And it's like, no. You can pay a guy cheaper in free agency, do the exact same thing for you.
You could draft a guy that can almost do what he does. And
also consider the source. It just like, sometimes a blind squirrel is right, but no.
So Grant said that not only that they're interested in Jordan Addison, but that they are going to try and trade up in the draft, and that they want to make a big splash in free agency. That sounds like every kid's Santa list. Like, I want this toy, I want this.
This is what I hate. This is exactly what I hate about this, is that what people do is they get a blue check mark, and I'm not saying Grant's doing this, but I'm saying a lot of fans do this. Of like, they should get this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy, and I would do this and that and this and that, and they get mad when the team doesn't do those things because it gives them like a justifiable reason to get angry. And you're like, yeah, but They were never going to do those things, nor can they afford to do those things, or at least all of those things. And you're like, well, yeah, but, it's like, well, you don't know football then.
You know what I'll say? And I never thought I would say this, and I don't know, Dre, if you agree, because I said this on Monday with Mike. I'm glad they didn't pull the trigger at the trade deadline. It was the best decision they made.
I'm not going to talk
What?
about that.
What? What?
They need every draft pick
Whatever.
possible. I
Man.
was so short-sighted.
I
I'm
feel
sorry, Dre.
justified.
Dre, they need that first round pick this year.
Whatever.
They need to hit on that.
All right. With that being said, guys, I
Yeah,
got to
end the
run. I got people banging on my door right now, so I got to go. So that's going to do it for the Cover 3 podcast for this week's show. We'll be back next week following up on the NFL playoffs and more news and updates from the land of the 49ers. Thank you to Aaron. Thank you to Sterling for coming out here and providing another fire podcast. If you want to support us, just go and subscribe to our channels, Dre Area Sports, 49ers Access, and 49ers First Takes. With that being said, we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye. Peace.